Airport security personnel of Reddit. What is the weirdest thing you have seen inside the passenger's luggage? In college many years ago I had a part-time job demonstrating a dollar counting machine. They were relatively new then. Once had to fly somewhere to give a demo and took my duffel bag full of $1 bills. The guy searching that bag called for his boss to come over. The boss was experienced enough to figure out that real drug dealers don't traffic in low value currency and he kept me from being arrested. Next time put glitter on the bills so they think you are a stripper not a drug dealer. I was traveling with a buddy from Canada to France. We were big into one card game that required pennies. So my friend, the character that he is, brought a glove full of around 1,000 pennies and without thinking, tossed it in his carry-on. Every security stop we went through, he had to dump out his glove of pennies and then put them all back into the glove. The first security check we went through, him and I were both staring at the screen, wondering what the heck was in his bag. The way it was placed, it looked like an awkward metal dinosaur. To be fair, a sock full of pennies can make for a serious improvised weapon. My child once packed a Ziploc full of sand in her suitcase. Turns out on X-ray this looks like a bomb. Also turns out her sand was full of rotten seaweed and tiny little, dead, sea creatures. Opening that bag was like the bog of eternal stench. 3 airports we hauled that dang bag through, and then I made her throw it away. It was me. I found a taxidermy chicken on a trip, and had to buy it. Then I had to get her home. Well, she wouldn't fit in my suitcase, so I had to carry her in my arms. It was a really busy travel day, and that chicken amused everyone. Absolutely every person in line suddenly wasn't grumpy anymore. So all laughed, especially when she had to go through the X-ray. Passengers who were irritated at lines started smiling. I loved it. 10/10 would travel with a chicken again. So this is how I can smuggle C into Los Angeles. Bought a wiener dog corkscrew for my fiance at a gift shop the same day as my flight. Threw it in my backpack and totally forgot to put it in my checked luggage. Noticed security grabbing my bag off the belt. They pulled out the corkscrew and I gasped and said my wiener dog. I must have looked genuinely concerned about that corkscrew because toots our guys decided it didn't seem like much of a threat and let me keep it. Shout out to those TSA guys for letting me bring my derpy gift home. Corkscrews have been allowed for years. The ones with little knives attached aren't allowed. I worked TSA. Things that stood out to me was a hookah pipe. It looked like an octopus. Then some lady put her dog through the machine. It looked like a turkey. Not TSA, but I worked in a baggage room where bags sat idle until they were run to the plane or another transfer point. We typically didn't open bags unless they were leaking, vibrating or void of any information and we needed to reroute them hoping for some form of it inside the bag. It's vital you properly tag your baggage as the airline's tags are only held together by an adhesive strip that will detach should it get drenched and trust me, they can get drenched. Oh and some are just plain paper and disintegrate. In Idaho, we had one guy come in from Paris with only a backpack. When it got to our bag room a large red pool of something was eking out of the bag. Obviously our first thought is blood, so we put on some gloves and slowly opened the bag. There was canisters of extract and syrup in the bag. Blueberry, blackberry, raspberry and strawberry. The strawberry had been badly damaged and was now leaking out of the bag and all over everything else. Dude also had a ton of whipped cream, like way more than anyone should ever have stuffed in this little backpack. He legit could have gotten these things from anywhere in the US but opted to jam them in a backpack and ship them across the world where one broke and definitely looked like a horror scene. We all knew better, but we were definitely waiting for there to be a head in there. There's also the time that for whatever reason a 5-gallon bucket of something squishy was left on the ramp. The gate called us to come get it. It was actually bleeding and smelled like BBQ. There was a picture of a pig on the side of the bucket and everything was in Spanish. We got a friend to translate it and I forget what it was for, but the contents were sponge-like and filled with blood. Pretty gross. Sounds like tripe in the bucket. Weird that it's a bucket of it but hey. I was flying domestic as a late teen with my sister and without my parents. My bag of stuff was inspected after the x-ray and a bug, earwig, crawled out from the backpack and then under the desk out of sight. The agent said nothing and I said nothing. Earwigs have taken up residence in the box that holds the keypad for the garage door. About once every 2 weeks and more often after it rains. I open the cover to the box only to have an earwig fall out. It's shocking every time. My mate's dad works doing outbound baggage scanning, and he said he regularly gets people going to Pacific Island countries like Samoa with lawnmower engines or scooter engines in their carry-on baggage. Stuff like that is hard to get in Samoa, lol. Not airport personnel, but my parents own a small agriculture business in Peru and travel there multiple times per year carrying different types of equipment in their luggage. One time they went and my sister went a week after them. My parents wanted her to carry around a chainsaw from Toronto to Peru. Apparently she got through fine in Toronto but obviously got some weird looks, but once she got to Peru they started interrogating her and wanted her to pay a huge fine to bring the chainsaw through. It was only when she started crying that they felt bad and just let her go. Ah, my good old Latin America, always trying to scam foreigners. There's a lot of odd stuff found in checked baggage. Commercial fireworks, the mortars that shoot up in the sky and explode. Cops were involved. A skinned goat skull packed on top of clothing. It had obviously missed the plane. Sat for a day and that was a very bad day. Poorly sealed jars of rotting blended fish. Must be a delicacy somewhere. Undeclared firearms are fairly common. They don't necessarily pose a danger, but there's a right and wrong way to transport them. Welp. Great that someone's fulfilling their duty by scanning this type of luggage and dealing with the people accordingly. Risky stuff. I flew with an antique 12-inch cast iron skillet with a lid and 2 antique oil lamps with iron brackets, a mercury glass reflector in my carry-on. They were family heirlooms that I very carefully and skillfully wrapped in my sweaters and a long velvet skirt and lined everything with socks and bras. Yes, my packing skills are to be envied. I had to explain to the Tsar that I was not planning to use the skillet as a weapon and that the reflector was not the casing for a bomb while my bras were laying all over the table. Me yelling be careful with that, it's super fragile probably didn't help with my not a bomb plea. See, this is one of the reasons airport security is trash. If you can take over a plane with a skillet, you can take over the bloody thing without it. Crack pipe. He pulled it out of his pocket right before going into the body scanner. Airport police came and got him. A bag full of dildos. Huge ones. The guy looked like a casual business traveler. About once a week a loaded gun. 9 times out of 10 it's an electric razor. But, every once in a while, it's a dildo. Of course, it's company policy never to imply ownership in the event of a dildo. We have to use the indefinite article. A dildo. Never. Your dildo. A live spider. Passenger didn't know and wasn't large but he opened his bag. It crawled out. And I screamed. Human ashes. Homemade dildos. The woman gave me her business card. A live cat. Antlers with rotting flesh still on them. My favorite was a magician's bag. Alerted for explosives. He kept pulling bits out of pockets and showing me bits of his act. To distract you from the explosives, no doubt. I was the passenger. I was taking a pressure cooker and some spices to my sister that she left behind when moving out of state. In the interest of saving space in my luggage, I put the spices, the kind in glass jars with metal lids, inside the pressure cooker. I'd also found a pair of earbuds that belonged to her and chucked them in with the spices for an easy to hand off package. I was not surprised to find Tsar's note. I was a little put out that they confiscated my deodorant, which had been in a sealed plastic bag with other hygiene supplies that were completely separated from the pressure cooker. Maybe they forgot to put on deodorant that morning. I once was traveling for business and I just brought all my Game Boy Advance DSP-SP games. It was like 2 Ziploc gallon bags filled with games and 3 portable systems. I checked my luggage bag, so the only thing in my carry-on was crap tons of video games and systems. Tsar stopped and looked through it, then brought over some other people to laugh at the guy traveling with nothing but 200 video games. Not Tsar, but joined a tour of cats a week after 9/11. You can imagine adding a new one-way ticket for every flight leg of the tour into a group if 60 plus raised a few flags. I got all my bags pulled over and searched in full view of everyone every time. At that time for big groups they did it before they got put on the belts. So we decided to start screwing with security. We put a gigantic red double dildo and lots of gay pee magazines. Yes, magazines. It was 2001. In my suitcase to watch their reaction. We started rotating it through different people's bags to see the different reactions, and didn't tell everyone which bag it was in. Up past the Russell Hotel. Up to the cavity search. I live in West Africa. Whenever we, Americans, go on vacation or back home, we like to bring back food items you cannot get here. I'm sure someone got a kick out of the turkeys and hams people were bringing back for the holidays. Not so here, but a friend of mine flew from Seattle to Cali. When he got to CA he stuck his hand in his coat pocket and realized he had a box or two of loose .22 shells in there. He had put the coat through the x-ray and they never even noticed. My brother and his friend borrowed a lawn gnome from my mom's evil roommate. They both heard that Tsar guy say, "Is that a gnome?" as it went through the scanner. No one said anything though. I worked at an airport as a line tech. A former baggage screener, Preet-Tsar, told me of the time he opened a bag and found a human skull. The passenger was an MD and had all the appropriate paperwork to transport the skull, but it was still surreal. When my buddy went into a war zone to do his time on the ground, he left his skull to me in his living will. His mom went apeshit, but when he was questioned by the legal department over it, they couldn't find any law or regulation saying he couldn't do it. I'm a little late to the post, but here is my story from being that passenger. I was traveling to visit my now husband for the weekend and didn't want to check a bag, so I only had a carry-on. In my carry-on I had a big metal butt plug with a tail attached. You can imagine how that looked on the scanner. Everyone could see it on the x-ray too. There was a girl in front of me that got her boyfriend's attention and pointed at the screen and started laughing because she obviously knew what it was. Tsar pulled my bag to the side and asked whose it was. I walked up with my beet red face as the girl laughed even harder. The Tsar officer, who is an old Indian guy, then held up my butt plug by the tail and we had a conversation like this. Tsar, what is this? Me, quietly, a butt plug. Tsar looks confused and continues to inspect it and holds it by the plug and even smelled it. Tsar, what is it? Me, a sex toy. Tsar, a what? Me, a sex toy. Like it goes up my butt. The Tsar agent immediately got super embarrassed and put it back in my bag and covers it with some clothes before sending me on my way. While I am dying inside and the girl behind me can't contain herself. Sorry, but I would have laughed at you also. Flying out from spending time with my girlfriend in another state. I'm anxious and especially nervous while going through security, topped with being sad that I won't be seeing my girlfriend for another long period of time. I'm feeling a little weepy. My bag rolls through the scanner and I see the woman's face get all concerned and she calls over another agent to look at the screen. I'm thinking like, oh good, what now? She asks me, do you have a milkshake mixer in your luggage? I'm just taking it all in for a minute before it dawns on me. I have no idea what a milkshake mixer looks like, but I know I don't have one. My Hitachi magic wand isn't there. At this point, I'm feeling overwhelmed by everything and now I'm pretty embarrassed and there's more attention on me than I care for. So, I promptly burst into tears, sobbing. It's a vibrator. Tsar guy was like, there's a huge metal stick on your carry-on and giving me the you naughty eye. I told him it was a curling iron. He opened my luggage trying to embarrass me. Joke's on him. It was indeed a curling iron and I was only embarrassed by the dirty underwear I packed last minute. It was on the trip back. I recently flew to Wisconsin and in security check on the way home I got pulled aside. I had to laugh a little when the agent pulled a slab of cheese, my travel alarm, and my charging cables from the same zippered pocket. Oops. Wisconsin local here. This reminds me of the time I put a bag of cheese curds in my purse for snacking and forgot about it until the next day. Two small dogs. I was waiting in the line at security behind a lady with two bags. She puts both bags down on the conveyor belt and opens one up to grab something. One of the dogs decided this was its cue to make itself known and popped its head out the bag. The security line was halted and she was asked to open the bags, revealing not just the first dog but another one. I really have no idea what was going through her head. OMG, poor dogs. Obligatory not airport security, but my friend's dad is. He told me about a woman who tried to take a whole cooked chicken through the scanner in her hoodie pocket. She tried to play it off that she was pregnant, but was clocked on the x-ray as having a weird looking baby. If I recall correctly, she then tried to eat it as fast as possible, whilst it was covered in hoodie fluff. She could have taken it through as well if she'd just put it through with her luggage. I don't think people realize you can bring any outside food through TSA. I usually bring a full meal and a full box of cheese crackers. I'm not paying $38 for an airport sandwich and chips. Flying from Boston to Dallas, I got pulled over by TSA. He said something looked odd. Told me to step over to another area where another guy searched my bag. Sure, no problem. He opened my bag and pulled out a giant solid chocolate bunny. He picks it up and yelled at the guy operating the machine, "Chocolate bunny." I've told this story on Reddit before, but I was doing training in North Carolina. Went on a work trip. This guy who worked with me was in front of me on the bag scan. He went first and they flagged it and pulled him to the side. Asked if they could go through his bag. Well, they pull out a pocket pea. My mouth drops. But they can't figure out what it was. 3 people are around it looking at it, and then they look at him. Ask him what it is. He doesn't say a freaking word. This of course leads me to bust out laughing. They call a supervisor over and he is looking at it. Finally they tell him he can either tell them what it is or they will keep it. He tells them to keep it, grabs his bag and walks off. I started laughing so hard I had to stomp my feet. We never discussed it again. That happened to me, except that SAR agent is a girl and she started waving it around, squeezing it, shaking it and stuff. I just asked for help from the nearby male SAR agent, and he just waved me through. This is a really hard question to answer seeing as I work at one of the busiest airports in the US. Here's a list of my top 5. 1. A dead chicken. 2. A dead dog. 3. A bag full of liquor store pee. Pee that you'll only see sold at the liquor store. 4. A bag full of sex toys and lube. None of it in packaging or unopened. Like seriously, how much do you need? 5. A bag of moldy fruit. Stank up the whole checkpoint and the guy acted as if it were normal to allow fruit to ripen beyond consumability in your backpack. It was dang near wine y'all. When I worked at a small regional airport pre 9/11, we just had Southwest Airlines come in and they were running a promotion, $39 from BWI Baltimore, Washington. Anyway, I got called over for a suspicious bag. I still remember it, a red and black check plaid with leather corners, old school luggage. It had no ID tag, so we decided to open it to see if anything in it could be used to get in it. Well, I put on some latex gloves and proceeded to open the bag. About 6 cockroaches ran out and 2 up my arm. As I continued to open the bag, I discovered a small electric hot plate, a beat up sauce pot and like 2 pounds of used coffee grounds sprinkled over everything, and about 50 more cockroaches. Real hobo starter kit. Pretty odd stuff. Doesn't sound like those were used coffee grounds. Neither of these were in luggage, but lady had McGriddles tucked into each armpit. They both fell when she was asked to raise her arms for the scanner. She thought food wasn't allowed through, so she was gonna smuggle them in her armpits. I asked a lady if she had anything left in her pockets. She proceeded to reach into her shirt, down into her bra, pull out a set of teeth, and pop them into her face. Not necessarily weird, but definitely interesting. There was a Halloween convention in town, and there were a lot of prop companies coming through. This one lady had fake body parts, brain, eyes, fingers, toes, intestines, a heart. Some of it looked very realistic, specifically the details on the fingers, toes and eyes. My brother is so. He once stopped a guy for having an entire bag full of dead fish. Not frozen, not on ice, just raw butt fish in a bag. He also saw a dildo in some lady's carry-on, but I doubt it's the strangest someone's encountered. Last, not a strange item but more of seriously situation. He stopped some lady from bringing a bottle of water past security. She told him, "Oh, that's not mine. It's my dog's water." He told her they sold dog water at the terminals. My aunt had a farm. She used ladanivis on the farm. Then they stopped selling them in the UK. I was working in Moscow, so I used to bring out spare parts. I was stopped leaving Sheremetova several times with clutches and brake pads in my luggage. Not security, but airline employee. Maybe not the weirdest, but my favorite find was a big bag of dildos and dildo accessories. It made my day. I sell dildos and dildo accessories. Finally, one of these I can contribute to. Dumbbells. 2 by 20 kilograms dumbbells. Couldn't be seen through on x-ray and was pulled for search. Was dumbfounded. He thought there was no problem with that above people's heads on a plane that bounces around. Obligatory sexy item 1. Best 1. New girl on x-ray machine has pulled bag off for handcuffs. Right. Lem just look at that image a moment before I open this bag. Up. Closer look shows faint outline of some long shapely objects with motors at the base of them. Ask the guy where he was going. Meet my fiance. So please show me the handcuffs to prove they have safety catches and you're free to enjoy your weekend. The smirk on that guy's face. Eesh. When I was a kid I liked to game on my laptop. And I didn't have a desk, so took a flat plywood board and taped a mousepad to it, so I had a big old board I would use as a portable desk. So always asked about it. It was mostly just like, kid, what is this? I'd tell them it was for gaming and they'd stare at it and go, ooh okay I get it, laughs and hands back. Happened every time I swear. And I travel, Ed, a ton. Lmayoru, I can imagine a kid with a huge piece of plywood with a mousepad on it. Classic. Oh man. So many things. Dear Ed, Hunter wanted to carry it on the plane. Box was leaking. Airline said no, Hunter left it behind. Airline had to find someone to destroy it. So many sex toys. Mostly dildos. Ancient grandma with bondage gear. Sells stripping chemicals. Stuff was labeled will cause cancer. May cause death. Do not breathe. Do not get on skin and other fun things. Stuff was used to break down human cells for various tests. Passenger used the stuff in his job. Gave it to the airlines to dispose of. The airline shelled out $1,000 or so for a special hazmat company to come get it. After a while, it's not all that weird. I took a portable, still huge, 40s typewriter on my carry-on bag from Portugal to decorate my new place in the US. They asked me if I had a laptop. I said number. You should have seen their faces when they saw the typewriter. Turns out you need to take out the typewriter just like you would with the laptop. Requisite passenger, not security agent, but when I was in college and would come home to visit for the holidays, my mom would always pack my bag full of as much food as she could fit in it. This always included a hunk of cheese, at least 1 pound, often more than 1 hunks and up to 5 pounds. I would invariably get pulled aside, patted down, and asked what might be in my bag. It always ended in cute conversations with the agents about mothers will be mothers and such. And then one day, after I'm once again all like, it's hilarious, this happens every single time that SAR agent goes, oh, that's probably because that 5-pound cylindrical log of cheese looks exactly like a log of C4. And then I realized that for a good 2 years I've been getting pulled out because SAR thought I was trying to carry logs and bricks and pounds of C4 onto planes. I was so confused why my SAR pre-check got revoked. Not SAR, but my family took a small wheeled carry-on suitcase entirely full of frozen sausage across the country for a wedding. We were worried it would thaw and smell or that security would be like, WTF is in this suitcase, but no one cared. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.